I broke my hip when I was 14. Doctors told me to never exercise again. 20 years later, my body is still suffering from the consequences, and it's making it hard for me to get into superhero shape for my Iron Man suit. This is my story and how I've adapted my workouts to fit my disability. This is a video about resilience, about not giving up even when faced with bad medical advice, misdiagnosis, and a body that fights back. Because nobody knows you better than you do. The incident occurred on a beautiful summer day in the south of France. I was playing in the waves, nothing crazy really, yet somehow jumping over a wave changed my entire life. When I say I broke my hip, it's not completely accurate. Actually, it would have likely been better if I had actually broken it. No, my problem was more insidious. I actually broke the cartilage that was holding the head of my femur in place. I couldn't put any weight on my left leg when it happened, and my cousin had to carry me home. Very, very painful, but also apparently very prone to misdiagnosis. We went to see a doctor right away who said it was tendonitis, which is just tendon inflammation. I had to stop all physical activities for a couple of months, which I did. Great summer, by the way. Good treatment, but bad diagnosis. 2 months later, I was cleared to start karate again, and I will always remember that first kick of the class. A mawashigeri that broke my hip again. That same excruciating pain was back. I stopped everything again, and another doctor told me the tendonitis was back. As I'm telling all this back, it's just so absurd it makes me want to laugh. Fast forward a few months and the pain is gone again, but I'm scared to do any exercise. We went to see more doctors along the way who all said it was likely muscular or a tendon issue, and that I should be fine to exercise again since the pain was gone. Well, I didn't trust them anymore. We ended up seeing a rheumatologist, a friend of my parents, who somehow finally seemed to take me seriously and sent me to do X-rays. I still can't believe it took so many months for a doctor to send me do such a simple examination to see what was going on. And what they found was pretty distressing. Epiphysiolis of the left hip, they called it. I was glad we finally had a name for it, even such a mouthful, backed by actual data, the X-rays. I wasn't so happy with the solution though, because you see, it was already too late to fix it. Normally, when they catch this on time, it's treated as a pretty big emergency and you get surgery right away. While the cartilage and bone haven't had a chance to regrow, they can readjust the head of the femur within the hip socket before drilling some screws to hold it in place. You grow up, bone formed, the screws are removed, and you're fine. This is what should have happened to me the first time I went to see a doctor. But my cartilage had been broken not once, but twice, and I spent many months working awkwardly on that hip. That resulted in my hip shifting too far back and higher, but with bones still forming. By the time I got the X-rays, they couldn't operate anymore. It was already 40% bone. All I could do is use crutches for 6 months until the bone had finished growing, holding my femur in a very weird spot. And also monitor the other side, as there was a chance it could happen there too, in which case I would have ended up in a wheelchair for a little while. Luckily, that didn't happen. What was even worse though was hearing the long-term prognosis. No exercising ever again, as that could speed up the deterioration of the hip. Painkillers once the arthritis became too painful, then total hip replacement once the painkillers don't work anymore. I now had 2 hours every Tuesday morning to play World of Warcraft, instead of going to PE. And I didn't have to do any PE test for the final high school exam either. Silver linings, I guess. For 5 years, I didn't exercise at all. I went from karate 3 times a week, mountain biking and swimming every Saturday, and playing tennis to playing video games, mostly World of Warcraft. But when I reached 20, I wasn't happy with my body anymore. The shift in my hip had now resulted in my left leg being about 3 centimeters shorter than the other one. I was wearing a compensating sole, but it's never really enough. My back was still twisted with scoliosis from the muscle imbalance from having to compensate so much as I walked. and I was getting fat. So I stopped listening to doctors and started listening to my own body. I first did my own research and started experimenting. I wasn't confident about using weights, but I thought that body weight exercises should be okay. I then found Method Lafay, a complete calisthenics workout I could do from home with a couple of chairs and a pull-up bar. It was pretty intense, honestly, but it worked. Little by little, I fixed up my posture and my twisted back got a bit stronger. For the next 10 years, I was able to start moving more. First, trying weightlifting at the gym, which I quite enjoyed until I realized I couldn't really do some of the exercises properly. Then running, which I'd always hated and which always hurt my hip, until I read Born to Run and I had a slightly unhinged idea. Barefoot running on my toes. The logic was simple: animals don't have heels and calves are incredibly strong. Just look at Schwarzenegger doing calf raises. So I stopped heel striking and I let my calves absorb the impact instead. My left calf was unusable for 3 days after my first run, but for the first time, running didn't hurt my hip. Then rock climbing, which I loved, but being overweight held me back quite a lot. Something I want to fix eventually. And finally, surprisingly, triathlons. Swimming, cycling, running, back to back. Doctors told me to never exercise again, and here I was doing all 3 consecutively. That first triathlon weekend changed my life, but I also discovered my limit later on. An Olympic distance triathlon where my muscles gave out, my hips started screaming, and I limped the last 3 kilometers, finishing second to last. Humbling, but I finished. That was also the last triathlon I did. And today here I am trying to get into superhero shape by mixing calisthenics with weightlifting and running again. I've learned a lot about what I can and cannot do with my bad hip. Last year I nearly got a hip replacement, but backed out at the last minute because I was afraid I'd be able to do less with a fake hip than with my current one. This one I can kind of abuse because I know that at some point I'm gonna be changing it anyway. Look, I've always wanted to get fit, but never really got quite there. Doing it for a YouTube video has changed everything, and I'm confident I can do it this time. I honestly never expected public accountability to work that well on me, but I don't know, YouTube has allowed me to gamify my life in a way that I never imagined. Even without getting thousands of views, making videos for the past year has completely changed my life. I can't squat, bench press, or do push-ups. All of this would lead to imbalance and potentially pain. For the squats, it's kind of obvious because my back twisted so much when I go down, it's just not a good idea. And putting weight on top of my back, also not a good idea. I used to do bench presses and someone once told me the bar wasn't straight at all, which kind of makes sense because I can't really lay down flat on my back. The left side of my back is actually much bigger than the right side, so yeah. I also used to do a lot of push-ups, but again, because of the twist of my back, one side tends to get hit harder by the workout. So instead I prefer exercises that involve hanging, like pull-ups, dips, or hanging leg raises. I do deadlift, but a stiff version because I don't want to bend my legs, and I focus on unilateral exercises as much as possible to make sure I'm not creating any imbalance. When I started this challenge in January, I hadn't trained in months, so I kept it simple. Machines only to ease back into it without getting injured. Every session started with a dead hang and a dips hang to warm up the shoulders and decompress my spine. Then the main workout, assisted pull-up and dips in a superset. Because at the time I couldn't do any unassisted single rep yet. Then leg press, both legs together first and then one leg at a time. Then I would do stiff leg deadlifts, then shoulder press, then chest flies and reverse flies before doing some hanging leg raises and finishing with some bicep and tricep machine work. Mostly for fun. 2 months in, I dropped most of the machines and shifted to functional movements. The warm-up got harder, then hang, dips hang and plank, all for at least 1 minute. Then the core 4, pull-ups and dips in a superset, then deadlifts and Bulgarian split squats. These 4 exercises are the foundation of everything. I wasn't able to do a single pull-up when I started this challenge, but I can now do 5, which is pretty good progress, I think. After that, I do a circuit. Biceps curls straight into shoulder press, hanging leg raises, lateral raises, 3 rounds. Then 10 minutes of stretching, non-negotiable. And finally, a 1 kilometer run outside. No treadmill. I just hate treadmills. Yes, it's kinda hot in Thailand, but I don't know, it makes me feel alive. As you can see, I'm going with full body workouts, which I do 3 times a week on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. If anything happened on Saturday, I always have Sunday to go. I've always loved full body workouts, and I'm not planning to change anytime soon. This workout should get me into superhero shape, hopefully, allowing me to retain my muscles while I eat in a calorie deficit to shred the fat and fit inside the suit. But I'm not done. Once the weight is down, I want to put on some real muscle, aesthetic and functional. And like everything else, it won't be a normal approach. Another challenge, another questionable idea, and another superhero. But first, 60 days left in this challenge. I'm not just building a suit of armor, I'm finally building the body that's strong enough to wear it.